If you've been dreaming about living on the water in Seattle, this is your inside look at life on Lake Washington. In this video, we're going to do a deep dive on some of the best Seattle waterfront neighborhoods. We're going to talk about the pros, the cons, and along the way, we're going to see some amazing houses, including the most expensive house for sale in Seattle that just hit the market at $75 million. Hey, I'm Matt Goyer, a Seattle and Bellevue area real estate agent, and I've been living on the water here for over 10 years. Super excited to do this tour today, especially by boat. So here we are on Lake Washington, a huge lake that sits between Seattle and Bellevue. There's actually 9 different cities that border Lake Washington. In this video, we are focusing on the city of Seattle. If you want to see what's going on the east side, we filmed another video before. I'll link it up below. A lot of amazing houses in that video. But in this video, focusing on the city of Seattle, which runs primarily along the western shore of Lake Washington. So let's go from north to south. The northernmost neighborhoods in Seattle that border Lake Washington are Matthews Beach and Sandpoint. We're going to skip over those, but they're an affordable way to get on the water here in Seattle. The prices around the $2 to $4 million mark. And then as we work our way south, you've got Sandpoint, you got Madison Park, which brings you into Windermere. Windermere is a super nice waterfront neighborhood, but homes there almost never sell. So there's not that much for us to talk about with Windermere. And then that brings us to where we are right now here in Laurelhurst. Okay, so here we are on the water in Laurelhurst. Laurelhurst is a great waterfront neighborhood because you have both a shoreline that faces east and you got shoreline, we'll get to in a second, which faces west. One of the few places you can live on the water on Lake Washington in the city of Seattle and have western views. So location-wise, Laurelhurst is to the north and to the east of downtown Seattle. It's super close to the University of Washington. University of Washington has a lot of hospitals, other things going on like Seattle Children's. So it's a popular spot if you're working at UW to live in Laurelhurst. And one of the great things about Laurelhurst, if you don't live on the water, is you've got this beach club here. You can see they've got some really tall diving towers, some more modest ones too. And they got a little beach early in the morning, so not a lot going on there just yet, but I'm sure by this afternoon it's gonna be packed. But let's dive in and talk about some cool houses. These houses are on the eastern side of Laurelhurst. They have great views of the sunrise, and you got Mount Rainier, which is out today. You got somebody going for a swim right there. Where's our first house? So prices for waterfront homes here in Laurelhurst start at around $5 million, go up from there. There's actually nothing for sale right now in Laurelhurst on the water, but this home right here was on the market for what was it, $22 million, and this home is 11,000 square feet, and it's got 200 feet of waterfront. You can't really tell from the boat here, but they have this private little cove here, which would be great if you got little kids because Lake Washington can get super rough during the day, Saturday and Sunday, when there's lots of boats boating around. And so this little cove would offer your kids a ton of protection. So that's a really neat feature about this place. This home has a basketball court on the water. So we're coming up now on Webster Point. This is the southernmost tip of Laurelhurst, and it marks the beginning of the stretch of 7 miles per hour. So if you're a boater starting here going west, you got to slow down to 7 miles an hour, no wake zone. This home here right on the tip, that's sold for just under $7 million 5 years ago in 2020. And then there's a private tennis court here, or pickleball court. The nice thing about living on this bay is that these homes are all facing west, so you're gonna get those big sunset views. And because it's a no wake zone, the water's gonna be a lot more calm, which is really nice if you're paddleboarding and whatnot. The downside to living on this bay is it's a little bit shallow. Well, depth meter says 22 feet over here, but once we get a little further in, it gets a lot more shallow. You can just make things a little more challenging if you're trying to do a high dive off the dock. So here's the most recent sale in Laurelhurst, this house right here. So it just sold in June for $11 million. 6-bedroom, just under 7,000 square feet. And it's got a great boathouse on its dock, which you can't build boathouses anymore. So that one's grandfathered in. And there's a bunch of them here along the bay. Okay, so we're trying to find a famous person's house. And along the way, just wanted to point out there's an island here. Hard to tell from the water, but you can see it on the satellite view from overhead. But these couple houses here share a very tiny private island that they get to with a dock. But the house we really want to check out here in Laurelhurst belongs to Duff McKagan of Guns N' Roses. It was recently featured in Architectural Digest. We'll link that up below. They got some great photos of the interior. So this is his and his wife's house right here with all the umbrellas out. All right, so we're leaving Laurelhurst now. We're gonna boat over to Madison Park. Along the way, just wanna talk about like, why do people live on the water? Why are people willing to pay so much for the privilege? Well, one, you've got great views. You know, all these homes we just looked at, they're facing to the west, south. You can see Mount Rainier. You can see UW. You watch the sunset. Just great views out here on the water, and for most of these waterfront homes. So views, number one reason. Next up, we've got private waterfront access. So almost every home on Lake Washington has its own dock. So you can tie up your boat, motorboat, sailboat, whatever. You got a place to launch your kayak or paddleboard. You can go swimming during the summer. Our season used to be really just July and August, but thanks to global warming, our summers here are really stretching out. This summer, we really had a solid water season, you know, beginning back in May. It'll probably stretch all the way through nearly to the end of September. So our summer seasons are getting longer, so people are getting more use out of their waterfront homes these days, which I guess is one of the sad benefits of climate change. Another reason people like living on the water is the privacy. Most of these homes are set pretty far back from the street or in gated communities or have a gate themselves. Sure, we can boat by and you can see these homes from the water, but really there's only people boating by during the summer months, and they're still, you know, they're pretty far from your house. Something you don't really appreciate till you live on the water is just the amount of nature that there is here in the middle of the city. There's so much wildlife at all hours of the day. You've got a lot of osprey and other birds and ducks, you know, fishing. You can watch them hunting. There's a ton of herons on Lake Washington, and it's really amazing to watch them do their thing at the end of your dock. And then in the evening too, there's some number of beavers on the lake. And so at dusk, you often see the beaver swimming by. The beavers can also be a bit of a nuisance though, because they'll take down your trees. And the crazy thing is every now and then we've seen a sea lion make it through the locks and come through to the lake. They kind of get lost here for a couple days, but inevitably they find their way back through the locks into the ocean. Oh yeah, and there's tons of fish. Just look under your dock. So another reason people like living on the water is that these homes really hold their value a lot better than other homes because there's really a fixed supply. There's only so much waterfront here in Seattle. There's almost no vacant lots. There's very few new homes being built. If you want to build a new home, you got to tear the old one down. So they hold their value well. And finally, a lot of people like living on the water because they can really entertain and host. You have typically a big yard, you got a big dock. In the summer, people can come over, go swimming, throw a big seafair party, kind of a thing. And pretty soon we're gonna boat by a home here that hosted a fundraiser for the Obamas. Okay, so we crossed under 520 Bridge and now we are boating beside Madison Park. Madison Park sits to the east of downtown, and it's got a very famous homeowner here. We're gonna see his home in just a second, well known for coffee. But Madison Park is a great neighborhood. What I love about it, it's got this great little retail core, so it's got this great little city, little village vibe going on. And if you don't live on the water in Madison Park, don't worry, there's this massive beach here. It's still early in the morning, so it's not that busy, but it will definitely be busy this afternoon. And then my pro tip for boaters is there's a dock here, so if you ever need to drop or pick people up, you can use this dock. It's only slightly sketchy on really wavy days. And the other thing worth pointing out about Madison Park is it has the most diverse housing stock of any of these waterfront neighborhoods. You've got the big estates we'll see in a second, but you've got these waterfront apartment buildings, condo towers, and kind of everything in between here on this stretch of water. And stuff like this will never be built again. You know, it was built at a time when they weren't too worried about the environment and all that. But these days with our shoreline regulations, there's no way anything like this will be built again. Before we boat by this famous person's house, I just point out one of his neighbors' houses. So this home was last on the market in 2023 Didn't sell. It was listed for $22 million. The home's like 8,300 square feet, but it's got this nice gentle shoreline, which is a nice feature. So now we're boating by one of the more famous homes on today's tour. This home is owned by Howard Schultz, a Starbucks fame. There's a Starbucks in Madison Park. It sounds like for people who live in Madison Park and go there, there's occasionally sightings of him there getting coffee. But his home is nestled in here, this little enclave of homes called the Reed Estates. There's 9 homes in it, 4 along the water. The water ones are all big, very generously sized, nice shorelines. You can see he's got a nice gentle shoreline, huge dock, well, 2 docks, covered boat lift, really nice features. So his home, quite large, hasn't sold for a really long time. What's it worth? Well, the tax assessed value is something crazy. It's assessed at $45 million, and the house is nearly 17,000 square feet, and it sits on nearly 2 acres with 248 feet of waterfront. So really quite the home. So what are the downsides to living on the water? Well, one of the nuances you need to understand if you're buying some waterfront is street ends. Every street in Seattle that terminates at the lake actually ends in a little park called street end parks. And so this home, you can see there's a little street end park here with 2 chairs set up there. And so it means that the homes beside it really have less privacy because there's people coming down and enjoying the waterfront. And this home here has this like massive fence along their dock. It's my understanding you can't do that anymore, but that one must be grandfathered in. All right, so we are leaving Madison Park behind here, and we're coming up to Denny Blaine in just a second. Before we do, we're gonna pass by the Seattle Tennis Club. So the Seattle Tennis Club is monstrous. It was founded in 1890. It has a ton of waterfront. It's got something like 19 tennis courts, but then a ton of waterfront activities as well. And it's really hard to get into. The wait list is something like 8 years long, and the initiation fee is something like $50,000 or $60,000 these days. So it's quite the exclusive club to belong to. And if you lived in Madison Park or Denny Blaine, certainly have like super convenient access to it if you're into tennis and all that. So just past the tennis club here, we're getting into Denny Blaine. So Denny Blaine is like Madison Park, but even fancier. It's really only home to houses. So Madison Park, super diverse. You've got condos, apartments, townhomes, and a lot of single family homes. So Denny Blaine is really just single family homes. And certainly along the water, if you're looking to live on the water within the city of Seattle, it probably is home to the nicest, most expensive waterfront estates. So how much do homes cost here in Denny Blaine? They kind of start around $7 million, and then sky's the limit, as we're about to see here in a couple minutes when we see the most expensive home for sale in Seattle. But just to give you one data point, so there's this Olsen Kundig, super famous architect. We saw their crazy expensive house in our last waterfront video, but this one, a little more modest, and it was on the market for $20 million. Now we're just passing by another street end park. This one's actually a little beach. So if Madison Park is too busy for you and you want a quiet, more private beach experience, check out this East Harrison Street End. Oh, it looks really peaceful today. Okay, so now we're boating by a home that's on the market right now here in Denny Blaine. It is listed for $37 million. It's a relatively modest house for the waterfront here. It's like 4,600 square feet, but at that price works out to be like $8,000 a square foot. So pretty expensive, but it's on a nice lot, lots of mature landscaping. They're hard at work on it right now, and a nice dock to chill at. Okay, so right now we're coming up on the Denny Blaine Park. It's a very well-known park. It's been in the news a lot recently because it is a popular nude beach, and the homeowners on either side of it are kind of fed up with it being a nude beach and some of the activity that goes on along with that. I'll let you read about it in the Seattle Times if you want, but it's kind of interesting to see the 2 very large homes right next to it. So to the right of it or to the north, we've got this guy Frederick Mall's house. And so he's well known to be an inventor of some medical devices, and so that's how he made his fortune and affords a big, beautiful home here along the water, and a home that you couldn't build actually that close to the water anymore with current setback requirements. And then you'll see, so they've got you know, the fences and stuff to block their views of the naked bathers at the park. And funny story, we had a client looking at a house just a block from here, not even a block from here. And he showed up to the showing early. It's this old carriage house, a super cool house. And he showed up a little bit early, and he's British. So, you know, I roll in, and then he, in his accent, is like, "Oh, Matt, I got here early. I went down to the park just to check on the water's edge, and everyone's naked there." And it was like in the spring, like early spring on a cloudy day. So he was surprised to find both people in the water and naked in whatever crazy spring month that was. Anyhow, he ended up not buying that house, but not because of the park. Okay, and then the other famous person really lobbying to change the rules at this park is this house over here, just to the south of it. So that home is owned by Stuart Sloan, who used to own QFC, now owns U Village, which we certainly talked about and shown in other videos. So when you go to U Village, that's where the owner lives. And he's busy trying to fight the city on that park. Now we're coming up on the most expensive home for sale in the city of Seattle. It's not the most expensive in the region. That one we showed in our other video. But this one just hit the market pretty recently for $75 million. It is a huge home, got rebuilt recently. It's hosted some fundraisers for the Obamas. It's got 5 bedrooms. It's just under 12,000 square feet. And it's got a really gentle shoreline, which I like. And then it has one of the highest tax assessed values here in the city of Seattle. And their neighbor to the north here has, I think, this highest tax assessed value in the city of Seattle. And they've got a great boathouse there on the water. And as I mentioned before, can't build boathouses like that anymore. So it's pretty rare. So who's selling the $75 million house? Well, it's a local real estate developer who must have done quite well. And you can't see it from the water here, but it's got a huge pool. We'll overlay some photos of that on here. And the reason why these homes are so expensive, I mean, yes, they're huge. Yes, they sit on a lot of land. Yes, they have a lot of waterfront, but people are buying them because they offer this resort-like living experience at home. And certainly at that price tag, you're paying a very pretty penny to live that lifestyle. Okay, as we leave Denny Blaine, let's just talk about some of the worst parts of living on the water. I mean, obviously the high price tag, it's very expensive to live on the water. It's very expensive to buy these homes. It's expensive to maintain them. They all have big yards. A lot of these homes we boated by this morning, we've seen lots of people working on them just to maintain their grounds, and then their property tax too. Because you're on the water, you're going to be paying the highest property tax there is in the area. And then some other downsides to living on the water is we have a very strict shoreline code here in the state of Washington. So if you want to do more development or you want to redevelop your property, there's a lot of rules and regulations that go into that. So it's a permitting nightmare. Even just repairing your dock requires a costly permit, and it's really expensive. We're really worried about the salmon. Everything's got to be salmon safe. So that's a lot of red tape to come along with living on the water. Other downside, we talked about the street end parks. So there's a ton of these little street end parks all along the waterfront here in Seattle. And in some ways they're good, to give you some extra parking if you're having a big party at your waterfront house, but you're going to have people hanging out just beside your big estate. And if it happens to be like that nude beach back there, you might find that problematic or not enjoyable. So another thing would be just the seasonal nature of living on the water. Yes, it's awesome year round, and some people will take advantage of living on the water year round, but really living on the water is best from May through the end of September kind of time frame. And the rest of the time here in Seattle, it's usually pretty rainy, but some of my favorite days are like you get that rare sunny day, no wind in like the middle of November, December, and you come out on the boat and like you're the only one out here. And that hasn't held us back from water skiing or wake surfing, stuff like that. We've gone in November just with wetsuits on, and that can be really enjoyable out here. And I guess last on the list here would be just the seasonal noise factor. Summers are super busy on the lake. There's going to be tons of boats going by, and there's lots of planes or like seaplanes from people who tie up a seaplane to their house. Actually, we haven't seen any along this stretch of the lake. There certainly are some on the east side, but I guess none on the Seattle side. I forgot one of the downsides of living on the water, but all this grass here reminded me of it. It's the geese. Geese are terrible. They just eat all the grass alongside the waterfront, and then they poop. They poop like 2 pounds a day. They come in huge flocks of like 20 geese, and then they leave these lawns with, 20 to 40 pounds of geese poop on them. The struggle is real here on Lake Washington. All right, just south of Denny Blaine, we've got Leschi is kind of similar to Madrona in that it's got a mix of things going on. There's some condos and apartments along the water here, in addition to some houses. And the great thing about Leschi from at least a boater perspective is they've got this big marina here. So it's a place where you can keep your boat, or if you keep your boat elsewhere, it's a great place to boat to. So they have a public dock. We'll go by it in a second. But we like boating here because, well, most of the time it's to take the kids to Starbucks, because you got to bribe them to get on the boat. And you bribe them by taking them to Starbucks and getting whatever silly drink they want. But they've also got a Blue Water Bistro and Daniel's Broiler. Those are both on the water. And then there's Pablo y Pablo, kind of contemporary Mexican style. And that's not on the water, but you can dock there, walk up to it, and have some expensive but good tacos. Okay, so here's the public dock at Leschi that you can tie up to, and gives you easy access to all the restaurants on land there. And if you're a boater here, I've got a guide. I'll link it up below. Basically just a Google map of all the different places you can boat to, all my hidden gems here on Lake Washington and Lake Union. Okay, so here we are, the south part of Leschi. This is where the waterfront homes are. Prices here a little more affordable than what we've seen before, so it's kind of ranging at the low end, $3 million up to, let's call it $10 million. We've got I-90 right there, so the closer you get to I-90, the more bridge noise there is, the more affordable homes are gonna get. So the home on the right here recently sold at 808 Lakeside for a little over $8 million. And a little hard to tell from the water here, but we'll show you the pictures from Redmond. It really does offer that resort-like experience. It's got a beautiful pool, hot tub. It's got this little casita pool house right next to the pool. And then you've got that home set back but high up that gives you great views out over the lake and Rainier. And it's got the dock with the boat lift. It really is the whole package there. All right, here's an example of a home that was recently on the market, went pending in about a month. It was listed for about $8.5 million. It's got a great lawn, decent sized dock, and it's got some big pilings there in the water. So I think they advertised that you could have up to a 75-foot yacht there. So good home if you're a boater with a big boat. All right, so who lives in all these homes? Well, for example, that one is owned or is being sold by a local tech executive. And so there's a lot of, obviously, tech money along the lake here, a lot of real estate developers, certainly successful doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, people who invented stuff like, the medical device guy we saw a little further back there. But it's a wide range of people who have done really well, or people who bought these homes certainly forever ago when they were a lot more affordable than they are today. Okay, so we've looked at a lot of really expensive houses today, everything all the way up to $75 million. But just want to point out an example of a more affordable entry point to the lake lifestyle here. So this home on the right, this purple house, recently hit the market. It's $3.5 million. And it's got, a nice flat lawn, the bulkhead, and it's got a boat lift, just a little dock though. You probably want a bigger dock, but rare to see a home at this price point in Leschi on the water. At some point, all these little houses here are gonna be torn down and replaced with all these big houses, the 4,000, 5,000 square foot places. Okay, so we're just passing under I-90, and as I mentioned earlier, the closer the home is to I-90, usually the more affordable it is due to the noise. But the noise is pretty variable, depends which way the wind's blowing, what traffic's like. And there's a lot of waterfront homes here that have to deal with noise from either bridge or the highway, so it's a common issue. But here we are in Mount Baker. So Mount Baker, I like to tell people, is like the more affordable version of Madison Park. It's got some waterfront, it's got a little retail core, it's got lots of beaches, waterfront access, kind of a thing. And the most notable house in Mount Baker is the old Oberto estate or mansion. So it's the house that Beef Jerky built. Apparently, Oberto loved the water, was a big sponsor at Seafair and the hydroplanes. And having this house here didn't quite give them a front row seat to the hydroplanes, but certainly you can sit on the dock there and you can watch the hydroplane races which happened just out here. So here's the old Oberto mansion. It's having some work done on it. It's changed hands a couple times since Mr. Oberto passed away. And then another notable house here in Mount Baker is this one here. Sort of this sprawling one-story estate, tons of waterfront. It's been on and off the market a couple different times, and at this point what's happening is it actually sits on 5 different parcels. So they're going to tear this mansion down and they're going to build 5 waterfront homes that range between like 4,000 and 5,000 square feet, all about 3 stories tall. So we don't see a lot of new development on the lake, so this is going to be some of the most recent development in a long time on Lake Washington. And if you're patient and looking for a brand new waterfront home and you want someone else to take care of all the permitting, all those headaches for you, well, that'll be the development for you in a couple of years once it's built. Okay, so south of Mount Baker, you've got this long stretch of Lake Washington Boulevard, gets shut down on Saturday and Sundays in the summer, so you can bike without worrying about cars. It's a lot of beach access here. And then it leads you to Andrews Bay, super popular boating destination in the summer. Only place on Lake Washington where you can anchor overnight. And then in terms of housing, so south of Seward Park, you've got the Seward Park neighborhood. Homes there are probably going to be in the range of 3 to 5 million. And then south of Seward Park, still within the city of Seattle, you've got the Rainier neighborhood. And down there, you're going to find some of the most affordable waterfront homes here on Lake Washington, with prices starting around, let's say, $2 million up to around the $4 million range. So the Seattle side of Lake Washington certainly has a more diverse range of housing options if you want to get on the water. Everything from, we saw that $3 million house, up to sky's the limit at $75 million. If you're curious about living on the water and you need help navigating the Lake Washington waterfront lifestyle, I've been living on the water here for over 10 years. Be happy to help. My contact info is below. Feel free to give me a call, text, email. Happy to meet in person or over Zoom, no matter where you are in your home search. And if you haven't seen our video on East Side waterfront homes, we got it over here. You got to see that one too. Some really incredible houses in that video.